Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Digital Leaders Show, where we talk key issues and news at the intersection of business and technology in hopes of making you a better digital leader. Today, we're discussing rethinking education and skills for the AI age, plus headlines for digital leaders from the world of enterprise technology. We're live every Wednesday at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the audio recording is available the following week wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks to our sponsor, Oracle NetSuite. Their cloud ERP helps provide real-time visibility into operational and financial performance. Podcast followers can get preferred pricing of 45% off NetSuite. Just go to irpaai.com/NetSuite for more information. I'm Dan Goodstein. I head up IRPA AI and the Digital Enterprise Institute, a professional association, media, and peer-to-peer research network, providing education, networking, and advice to over 130,000 members globally, all around automation, enterprise AI, and digital transformation. My co-host today is Kieran Gilmurray. He's a senior analyst at IRPA AI, author and industry thought leader. He's globally recognized on AI, automation, and digital transformation, having authored multiple influential books and hundreds of articles that have earned him prestigious accolades, including top 50 global thought leader and influencer on Gen AI, best LinkedIn influencer for AI and marketing, and one of the world's top 200 business and technology innovators. And, I bet you wish you were innovating the airline industry today, Kieran, because I know you're in an airport, but the show must go on.
The show must go on, my friend, but isn't it extraordinary? In this day and age when everybody travels, there's no quiet space. So finding a corner, quite literally finding a corner in my 15th airport this month has been a challenge, but let's go. That's the joy of technology.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're spending money. People are spending less and less money, according to, what is this, from the Conference Board Consumer Confidence Index, slipped to 98.3 for the month, down 7%. It's the biggest drop since 2021. Economy stuff, right?
Yeah, it is economy stuff here. I think everybody's telling a story. Like, take the UK for an example. The government came in, they had to say the last government were rubbish. But they spent months and months and months telling everyone that. So, of course, consumers didn't spend. Then you had the uncertainty of the US election. It, as you can imagine, impacts everyone and everywhere in the world. I thought that might give it a little bit of a bounce. But oddly enough, the economy is probably doing better than we think. But uncertainty creeps in with new elections, tariffs, war, you name it. All these things are happening all the time in the ball of an impact. Imagine if we thought better thoughts than ugly thoughts, the economy might actually grow a little bit more, the confidence might go up. But let's see. But it's been an interesting time, particularly when you start seeing, even the tech sector itself dropping, all down to, uncertainty around AI, even as we now suddenly get cheaper large language models appearing on the network as well. So certainly not boring in any shape, form or other.
No, and the tech stocks, which usually fuel this stuff, have not really. They were big in 2024, kind of driving the market. Actually, really 23 and 24. They've had a weak start to 2025, although the U.S. market at least is up a little bit today ahead of the highly anticipated earnings report from NVIDIA. Which, as we've talked about before, seems to be kind of the bellwether for the state of the AI industry based on just demand for AI chips that they seem to have almost a monopoly on, and also some of their AI services that are being launched.
Yeah, it is a bit of a bellwether, isn't it? And it's almost, to me, a false bellwether because when you've competition, and I'd love to see Intel coming back up in the curve. I see AMD are starting to do things. When there's more than one player in the market is healthy, but NVIDIA have enjoyed for quite some time now, almost to a degree, an unhealthy lead. Now you've seen their tech stock getting an absolute hammering. I think it was either 600 billion, a trillion, whatever it was, getting impacted by our friends because of DeepSeek, where everybody has been to the market and said, you need to spend hundreds of millions to build these models. You need to spend hundreds of billions to build data centers. And whether DeepSeek did it for 6 million, 60 million, or 600 million, it doesn't make a difference. It wasn't 600 billion. But again, now you can see the impact on the stock. Microsoft the other day, I believe, Satya Nadella, who said, I'm good for 80 billion, and suddenly stopped a couple of projects. So we're starting to see a little bit of doubt creeping into the sector. But to a degree, it was overinflated in some parts and underinflated in others. Overinflated on, that they what it can do, that it was every penny under God's earth appeared to go into AI. And look, this is powerful tech. I'm excited by it. It really does work. But again, why do we let these bubbles happen? Why are we not, a little bit more confident, a little bit more cautious, know what's going to happen, but not bet the bank and then see such a swing back? But look, I expect NVIDIA to announce that they're still selling chips. I expect NVIDIA to start announcing, more product, more areas, more everything. But it's healthy, healthy to see companies coming in. Whether you agree with, the narrative, the Chinese, they're going to steal all your data, whatever else. Obviously, a great story creates, what I call data sovereignty issues. A little bit of whatever you want to call it, protecting American spend. But you're starting to see other governments starting to come in. Europe's waking up because Donald Trump has told them to get on with it. The UK starting to put 16 billion in investments, and. So again, it's still an exciting market. There's a long way to go. But if I'd have lost 600 billion out of my business, I may not have slept as well that particular night.
Yeah, it's all funny money, right? But so the other headline that kind of jumped out at me. I don't think I even got a chance to share this one with you because I saw it right before we went on. But Amazon at an event in New York has just unveiled the long-awaited Alexa revamp that they were planning for, I don't know, a while now. So it's the Alexa Plus with advanced AI features, and lots of questions about, is it too little, too late for Alexa, or does this kind of take things to the next level and kind of help really an ailing business for them? What's your take?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, Dan? Because I haven't read the story, but everybody at one stage bought a Lexus. You hear a bit of noise in the background. So I remember at one stage I had a Lexus in each of my rooms. Now, was I ordering product for them? I certainly wasn't. Was I telling my kids to get their ass downstairs to eat their dinner? I absolutely was. So Alexa's been around for a while. It really did need a kick. If AI is that kick and it does something with it, absolutely fantastic. But it's needed a jump for a long while because it was an ailing product. Let's see what it can do. But again, I love innovation. I love seeing things like this coming to fruition. But let's see if it really works or doesn't. Good luck, Amazon.
Yeah, I'm always been a defender of this. I still think they've definitely lost their way in the recent year or two, or lost their competitive edge. But I still see an opportunity here, and I think the reason why they have the opportunity, I haven't obviously seen the new services, the new digital assistant yet, but I think the opportunity that they have is just like a lot of technologies. It doesn't necessarily have to be the best technology if it's got the access to the consumer base. And I think Amazon has that with Alexa. I mean, I forget the numbers on adoption and how many of these things the average household has, but it's a lot more than just the amount of chat GPTs and other other things, until these things become native to our cell phones. At least I think there's an opportunity. I mean, I have I don't know, 9 or 10 of these things in my house, right? So if I can get easy access to chat GPT like functionality through the existing infrastructure I put in my house, then there's something there, I think.
Yeah, I think there is. And I think I have about 9 in my house. The problem is 9 of them are now stuck on a shelf. Some are not actually plugged in. So again, if this provides the impetus to get them back out, I'll be more than happy, as long as it can do more than tell my kids to come for dinner. But I never ended up asking it for music. I never ended up asking it to turn on the lights. I never ended up asking it particular questions. And now that I've got ChatGPT and Claude and Bing and Bard and Gemini and Perplexity on my desktop, I'm using all of those tools. And here's the problem. Once you start to use one tool, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, if it's good enough, you'll keep using it. So now they have to break back into a market that they absolutely owned. But it's hard to bet against Amazon in many of the markets, because whenever they put their mind to it and their numbers and their money, things tend to work. So let's see how interesting this turns out to be in the next little number of weeks and months. We'll keep an eye on this and come back and report back to people, I think.
Some protests in your neck of the woods. There's a bunch of artists in the UK that have released a silent album in protest of AI using their work. Apparently, the UK government is exploring some proposals that will allow AI developers to be able to use creator content on the internet to help develop their models. Um, uh, Training using kind of copyrighted work without a license. This seems pretty American of you guys to allow something like this.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I was going to say comically, I didn't hear about this tongue in cheek, but I did. But it sounds very much like, and you notice the EU rolled back a little bit of the legislation the other day that they were going to place. Let's just say Donald is having an impact across most countries in the world, and this feels like the or the EU and the UK reacting to, the opening up of markets in the US. As soon as you start putting in, equal legislation or more dominant legislation, you're going to be in a non-competitive position. So this is kind of the fight back there. But let's see, as I said, they need to make some noise. Releasing a silent album isn't going to make the noise that I think they think it will.
That was good. You were prepared for that one, Kieran. I like it. Last headline, just some news out of Apple. Well, two headlines out of Apple. One is Apple shareholders have rejected an investor proposal to end the company's diversity, equity, and inclusion program. This is, according to Bloomberg, this is kind of interesting as all these global and U.S. companies seem to have started kind of divesting from these things, arguably before the Trump election, but definitely doubling down on it after the Trump election. Kind of eliminating these DEI programs, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs. I mean, there's a long list. Costco. Seems like some pushback from the board. So that debate is still happening. Meanwhile, while a lot of their competitors have announced layoffs, they announced on Monday they're going to hire 20,000 U.S. research and development workers over the next 4 years to produce AI servers in the U.S. It's the biggest U.S. commitment so far, saying they would spend about $500 billion, including a new manufacturing facility in Houston and Michigan.
Yeah, I didn't read too much into the story. You might hear a bit of noise in the background here as well, but I didn't read too much about it. But again, it's good to see investment going into things. It's good to see numbers of dollars going in somewhere. Again, it's back to AI dominating, investment circles. I think the DEI bit in firms is really interesting because for the last 5, 6, 7 years, we've been given a heavy diet of it. We've been told and statistically that more diverse teams result in better businesses. Doesn't matter whether that's technology, consumer, retail, or whatever else. Now that Donald has come in, told everybody to dump it, and now you're starting to see companies who really deeply invested suddenly not put money back into this. So how do the staff and the companies feel when they're told this is hugely important? Now they're saying, actually ignore it, don't bother with it. And Apple's an interesting one where they've started to push back a little bit of the shareholders and said, look, if we're really serious about diversity and serious about a team, we're keeping these things no matter what you say. But let's see what the American president says, and let's see the impact on companies who don't follow the line that he set out at the moment. It's a very strong line.
Yeah. So let's get to our main topic today, which is education. We've talked about this before, Kieran, but you wrote this piece and you were really referring to the UK specifically, but I think it applies to everywhere. There's certainly large markets like the US as well. The article was Rethinking UK Education Skills for the AI Age. You mentioned in this report that the UK is kind of sleepwalking into the future of work concerning AI, which is interesting to me because my perception as a guy sitting in New York is that the UK was actually the launching pad for a lot of this. Certainly the RPA technology, that launched the RPA industry for a while. So. Curious as to what do you think the factors are there?
Yeah, there's a bit of a delay. There was a new government come in, and all of a sudden, the Conservative government here beforehand who put millions into this, ran Bletchley Park Security Conference, Rishi Sunak, whether you loved him, hated him, whatever, was very tech, focused. Labour government came in and says, look, we're not actually going to do anything at the moment. And then they held off. The next minute, the AI market grew, and now they've announced 16 plus billion. Now, when you look at 16 billion, you think that's not a small amount of money. And if that was in my bank account or your bank account, Dan, I think you and I might be smiling from an island of Barbados, or else I'd be doing this from my private jet. But notice in the article that we wrote as well, and I recommend people join the network and follow along with all the great research, not just mine, but yours and others. It mentions that the UK government themselves estimate that their data skills gap alone costs the UK economy 63 billion a year. That's not the AI side of things, that's the data side. So when we're looking at 16 billion, we're still not saying that that's a massive amount of money. It's about 2 weeks of OpenAI server time to get the servers to operate. So it's a big number, but it's not going to be life changing. And 16 billion versus 63 billion seems weak. We really are in a place now where governments are rushing to put AI into place for economic reasons, for job reasons, for military reasons. And if suddenly each country doesn't actually fight to get their own AI opportunity, then you're at the risk of losing competitiveness, making yourself dependent on other nations, and losing out economically and militarily. So it's not big money that's going in, but I feel there needs to be more money going in, and more money from businesses, not just from government, because government will be a slow grind machine to get it to happen. Now, this isn't just a government problem. This is an educator problem. This is an employment problem. This is a me problem. Everybody needs to get behind this to suddenly learn data, automation, AI, all of the skills that are needed and have been needed for some period of time to keep yourself employed, to keep your business competitive, and to keep your company economically viable and security viable. Now what I'm seeing here is, if you notice where lots of the AI companies are coming out of, you haven't heard too many coming out of the UK, and you certainly haven't heard too many coming out of Europe. Now, Europe's woken up and went, we'll put 600, 800 billion into this. Let's see where they put the money, because they're starting to recognize the economic, social, and employment benefits of this. But if I asked you to name me, 10 UK/European companies who are at the forefront of AI, I think I would struggle, and you might struggle as well, sir. I could be wrong.
Yeah, yeah. And this is, as you mentioned, it's a multifaceted problem. It's also not a new problem, right? I mean, we talked, years ago. I forget the year. I want to say it was 2019 or 2018, where there was some report that had come out that said that in the US that it was the most unemployable college graduating class in a generation, because there's just such a mismatch, in skills gap between, what was coming out of the university system and, what companies were looking for. As even in the automation space, in the RPA space, a lot of the big RPA firms, couldn't find people, who were ready to go, developers who were ready to go quickly enough. So they started just building their own universities and training programs. I mean, spent millions and millions. And this is, before the AI revolution, before the pandemic. It seems like that gap is just accelerating.
Yeah, I think it's a terrible gap. Do you know what I mean? And again, I've seen an interesting stat the other day from UK piece of research. It said that 62% of recruiters won't put anyone forward for a job unless they've got AI skills. Now, that in itself is extraordinary. And we think of AI as a new thing because ChatGPT has come out, November a couple of years ago, 2022. But AI is an 8-year-old overnight success story. So this ain't new. ChatGPT is new. The first version came out 5 or 6 years ago. So I'm constantly surprised that governments and employers are constantly surprised by technology and where it should go. Now, obviously, we can't bet on everything, but let's be honest. We know blockchain is going to work. We know RPA is going to work. We know AI is certainly going to work. We know XRV are all these skills that people need. Data analytics are there. They've been around for years. We just need more of them, but we haven't actually put the money behind them. You see pockets of this happening in different countries. So Singapore announced, look, we recognize that we need skills in our economy that we don't have. So we're going to put millions toward getting over 40-year-olds. It was quite comical. I suddenly felt old, but we're going to get them the skills that they actually need to do something. But look at the traditional education system, Dan, because I've helped create courses for universities in Ireland. Before you begin a course, you spend a year designing it. Then you spend a year advertising. Then you spend 4 years delivering it. So you're 6 years, you graduate, and the world has moved on. So we really need to think how we educate our youth, and we really need to think about where we're putting our money in terms of technology and everything else, because what's currently happening just isn't working at this pace we need it to work, which is resulting in huge loss of competitiveness, but huge unemployability as well for folks who haven't kept up to date with the skills of the market. So we really need dramatic answers, and we do need dramatic answers sooner, because now the half cycle of our knowledge is disappearing. Take large language models, for example. You and I went to university, we were paid for the knowledge that we accumulated and how much we collect over time and how quickly we can play that back. Now, ChatGPT, for example, Anthropics, Perplexity, Claude, you name it, they're all there. They can play back all that knowledge across so many more domains. So the question is, how can we as humans actually create value in the market going forward when the cost of knowledge gets to zero? So we're not going to have to think of the skills that we've got and the skills that we need, but we're also going to have to think of where do we actually put people in the labour market now that we've got technology that in many cases can augment, of course, but in lots of cases actually replace as well. So it's a really critical time for government, society, business, and ourselves economically and job-wise.
Yeah, I want to come back to the government side of things, but before we do that, what about the educational institutions? Why are they so far behind in this area? I used to think that that some of the skills that they should be teaching, were just not as sexy and popular as the programs that they already had in place. And so it was a business like anything else, and they were focusing on where the interest was, and maybe less concerned or disconnected with whether people are actually getting jobs in those fields. But now you fast forward to today. I mean, there's nothing else going on. I mean, there is obviously, but it seems like there's nothing else going on in technology beyond AI. Are they catching up, or are they still kind of dragging their feet?
Well, I can only talk about my kids, do you know what I mean? And their real world examples. And teachers, I feel sorry for, not in a condescending sense, but haven't put money into education in years, to get teachers to qualified to teach STEM subjects. We've been banging on about this for a while. We don't mandate data literacy. We don't promote AI and automation awareness. We're not empowering the teachers through training, through education, through awareness, through equipment to actually get the skills they need to teach the kids. So one of my kids is doing mathematics at A level. That's our, you call it high school leaving year. He has got ChatGPT open, he has got his teacher's notes open, and he has got YouTube. That's how he teaches himself. So it's not a criticism of his teacher. His teacher's very good, but actually how he goes about learning is actually very different today. But that's not what they're learning in school. Again, the education system, I don't see it to the degree that I would want. Actually collaborating with industry to partnership with business and AI practitioners and data people and everything else to understand the needs of the business going forward. I'm not saying, dynamic courses happening through, early high school years, university years. And as I said, if we keep doing what we're doing, which is making people wait 5 and 6 years before they become to the labour market. And let's be honest, they're coming to the labour market with an ability to apply themselves to a subject over a sustained period of time. That isn't necessarily the skills that they need in a digital and an AI age, and they're certainly not being taught as well. What I am seeing, which is quite exciting, is employers owning this, not waiting anymore because they're getting frustrated with education systems. But for example, my older son is doing what we call an apprenticeship. So now he works 4 days a week in a consulting business, one of the global's biggest, and on a Friday he goes to university. And the business has actually worked with the university to help design a course that gives that individual, in this instance my son, the skills that he needs in addition to the work skills. So when he comes out in 4 years' time, gorgeously, that from a parent point of view that have paid for the degree, but he will come out work ready, 4 years worth of work skills, come out with cutting edge university knowledge and resource and guidance, and he will be on the cutting edge of employment as opposed to the cutting edge of tradition, were he to go down the normal or usual historic degree route. But we need to do more. We need to get government, we need to get educators, we need to get employers. And again, I own my own career. I'm not waiting on anyone else to develop me. But we need to get that, 3 or 4-legged stool all working together if we're going to create a competitive society. And with declining birth rates and increasing age, we have to do something very dramatic to employ great people with great technology, with great skills, to allow us to actually be fit as individuals, as employers, and as a society, cope economically for what is an ever accelerating, ever technology dependent world. And if we're not doing that, we have to ask, what the hell are we going to do, and when are we going to start doing it? Because if we're not doing it now, we really are in trouble. And I'm not seeing us doing this across multiple economies. Maybe Saudi is one of the exceptions, because I've done work there and watched how they've started to join up government and society and education and business, all with a very AI, data analytics and automation mindset. But by God, we have more to do. Otherwise, we're in trouble in many, many countries. We'll all end up like a bit of a Japan, where we ain't got the people we need to work. We haven't got the technology to fill up the productivity gaps and all of the tax gaps and the income and the productivity gaps that we actually need. Scary times then.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting example too. The Saudi, we've also tracked, over the years, certain countries that make, a single industry, basically their trade, right? You take, Philippines, contact center, places, all over the world, Manila, Africa for BPO, business process outsourcing or what have you. Now Saudi and a couple other countries in the Middle East are really, betting the bank on AI. Have announced big deals with, everyone from Microsoft and OpenAI. But it strikes me that it doesn't surprise me that the government is late to the game, but there are some, I think partially due to the way AI has just come into the forefront over the last year and a half, and like you said before, the election cycle in the U.S. Regardless of how you feel about it, it's definitely put this in the AI in the crosshairs, where government's talking about technology in a way I haven't seen probably my entire career, at least in the last 10, 12 years. So I guess that part is good. And my concern though is that certainly in the US we seem very concerned about bringing manufacturing back, but meanwhile not setting up these kind of national upskilling initiatives, as you kind of refer to them, right?
Yeah, it's interesting just watching. So Saudi has built AI into everything, but then they're building out banks, they're building out tourism, they're building out their society. So, it's a component of not the sole thing like the Philippines. But this is a shared responsibility. It's easy to blame government every single time. They're not doing a lot. Now the governments are. They're putting a lot of cash into this because they know it makes sense, and they have to. They have to compete. With US zone, China, and Russia. There's too many competing blocks now, too many sovereign areas attempting to run and dominate this. But there's very few societies that don't have aging populations and reducing birth rate. What are we left with? A very narrow middle who are going to have to take care of an older population that's living for longer. All these things are going to cost money. We don't have the productive numbers that we need in the middle. So AI is one amazing solution to productivity in society. These problems, but it's only one. What we actually need to do is create really amazing individuals who are really skilled in multiple areas. But we need to think forward. We don't need to be preparing people for today. We need to be preparing people for 18 months' time and 36 months' time, and that takes money, time, and investment. So this piece with the government actually works with business. The business works with individuals. Government works with us. All those things need to happen, and they need to happen really quickly with everyone driving. Otherwise, employers won't get what they want. We won't be in jobs. Societies will remain uneconomic and uncompetitive. So something has to change. Now, the fact that people are talking about this is great, but government takes a while to twist and to turn. Therefore, what can we do practically in short term? Some of this is just pure cash down. Just, let people learn courses, sign up to, whatever industry, government body course, whatever it is they want, put a bit of quality around the course. But let's get people the AI, the data analytics, the automation, the digital, and the people skills that they need to work at distance, in multiple countries, not just their own, across the world. And let's try and fix this thing, because it's too easy to blame, and it's too easy to come up with this is too big an answer, but doing nothing is not an answer.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at this comment from Dennis saying, a couple courses he's been in were basically outdated by the time he took them, and I know the traditional education people, will say that you learn foundational stuff. I actually remember asking my computer science professor why we were learning. Geez, I'm going to date myself. I think it was C or C plus or something. Because even then that was outdated, and I got this very scoffy response about how it's the language may change, but the fundamentals will stay the same. And there's some truth to that, although it's becoming less and less of a truth, I think, in the AI age. But I will say, anybody who's in the education space and watching this, I think the traditional, I'm not as familiar with the UK and the Europe systems, Kieran, but I will tell you the US college education system, I think, is going to be, I don't know if I'll go as far as say irrelevant, but much, much less relevant for a large variety of jobs. I mean, if you want to be an accountant, you want to be a lawyer, you want to be in finance, doctors, right? Certain industries, yes. But if you want to be in, the question I ask is, will you need a college degree to be in technology in a year, 5 years, 10 years? Like, I've got all my college accounts for my little kids, but I have this ongoing bet with my wife that we're not going to need them by the time they graduate.
So no, it's a hard one, isn't it? Because again, it goes back to what I said. We're preparing people for the cutting edge of tradition. 6 years, they qualify 5 years, and again, the world has moved on in 2, never mind 5 or 6. Software, it's interesting you mentioned that, because OpenAI put forward the Robots World Computing Championship not that long ago. They were a millionth a year ago. Now they're down to 50 in 12 months, and we're in version 4. What happens when we get to version 10? So we'll still need people. We still need people to understand that, because one of the dangers is we don't understand the black box, that we're going to sign up to employment issues, bias, that, there's too many problems. But again, I'm very much a fan of not having 5 years degrees. That's not to knock university students, because I wasn't ready for work. So university for me was a very nice soft landing. Good fun having a drink and playing rugby at the same time and running around Manchester and England. But it was very much, what did I learn? Have I applied? I haven't really. What I learned was to self-manage. What I learned was a lot of skills. When I did my MBA, that was something more intuitive. I spent 2 years doing that part-time. So again, I had access to professors, and I was asking the questions about work, and my mindset and how I went about doing my job became, more observant. I researched a lot more. The answers became a lot more key. The courses that I was doing were a lot more work relevant. And that's the bit we need to get back to, is how do we do things that is work and learning at the same time? And we need to introduce, bite-sized learning, micro learning, learning that, and this is a classic one. I'm now about to help the government in Northern Ireland actually design new courses, where what we're doing is, they're not necessarily relying on academics. And I adore academics, by the way, and I adore academia, and I adore what you learn at college and university. So it's not knocking that. But what they're starting to do is not necessarily run business people through the courses, but they're bringing in experts in different fields and different areas who are existing experts, and they're constructing the courses almost in real time in 6 months, and saying, okay, teach it. We don't want your materials today. We want you to keep the materials up to date. So the moment that you hit that ground running, you're actually teaching people what's in the real world and what's happening now. And part of my responsibility is to forecast 18 months forward, to give people the education and the knowledge of what's coming, to set them on that journey as well. I think we'll see a lot more of that, and a decline in the numbers going to university, not just for affordability, because that's massive, but applicability and sensibility around, well, am I actually putting my money and time into something that's going to get me a job and keep me employed, or should I invest my $40, $60, $120,000 alternatively? And a lot of people are looking for a very different return on investment, and will continue to do so.
Yeah. Listen, if maybe there's someone watching, if you're in education or you're in government, those good old fashioned, public-private partnership things. I'd love to figure out something, Kieran, that we can do to, connect our network, our marketplace of 130,000 members with, government, with education, and try to solve this problem. Because, I'm a big believer in, you see a lot of these headlines about, AI and the workforce and jobs. But if you really dive into the numbers, and, unemployment numbers and things, it's not so much that there aren't jobs. It's that there's a mismatch between the jobs that are out there and the skill sets of the people that are out there, right? So, I think there are jobs. I think as this evolves, it's going to become more disruptive, but it's gonna create jobs as well as take away jobs. The problem is that the type of skills that people have and the jobs that they're losing are not, they're not getting the skills and the jobs that are available. So it's something that needs to change very quickly.
100%. You can be a doomer gloomer and look for the glass half empty and come up with all sorts of reasons as to problems, but you and I are more into solutions than anything. So again, anybody who's listening and who wants to do something about this, come and have a conversation with us, because I'd certainly like to make a positive impact as opposed to sit complaining about it. This needs to be a solutions-based economy, be it skills, technology, wills, whatever. If you've got the will, you can certainly do something, and you and I have the will. So look, folks, if you've got some ideas that you want to come forward, some courses, some partnerships, or something else, absolutely delighted to do so.
Kieran, thanks, buddy. I want you to make sure you get to your flight. We don't hold you up anymore, but thanks for joining. Thanks for joining, everybody. We're back Wednesday at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. And in the meantime, if there's anything you're working on, you need some help, you want to speak to one of our subject matter experts or analysts like Kieran, check out urpaai.com. Take care, everybody. Have a great week.